There is a great diversity of plants and animals found in jungles, some of which are not well known. It comes as no surprise that there have been several strange finds made in jungles across the globe. In this video, we are going to look at the top 15 secrets discovered in the jungle. When you hear the word sloth, you probably think of the slowest animal on the planet rather than a giraffe-sized creature with grizzly bear-like claws. That, however, is the Mapinguari story. Some tribes in the Amazon think that this creature, who has been lurking deep within the jungle for decades, is real. The beast, described by the locals, is almost 7 feet tall and shaggy. There are many who say it has a single eye, while others say it has a snarling mouth on its stomach. Brace yourself for this shocking jungle discovery. Although mummification is common in Egypt, certain native tribes in the rainforests of Papua New Guinea practice a different kind of mummification. A body would be hung over a fire until it was charred, at which point the blood would be drained by making cuts in the knees, elbows, and feet. Then, as a mourning ritual, they would gather the fluids and cover themselves with it. Following their drying out, they would hang these mummies from cliffs above the settlement, signifying that they were keeping an eye on their people. In 1949, the practice of mummification ceased in these villages upon the arrival of Christian missionaries. The remaining mummies are old and the locals take care of them. You would assume that spiders only spin silk to create webs, but in the eastern Peruvian jungles, there is a mystery surrounding the creation of strange silk structures by spiders. We're not even sure which species is in responsibility for them. These findings were made in 2013, and even experts in bugs don't fully understand what they mean. Because of the central cone that is encircled by pillars, like a silky version of Stonehenge, these constructions have been dubbed silk hangus. Phil Torres, a tropical entomologist, was able to record some incredible video footage of these silk constructs in 2019. He thinks they're being made by the spiders to guard their egg sacs. Some researchers have found these same web structures located in other rainforests like the Amazon, but still, no one knows why these exist. Barro Colorado Island in Panama is a unique location. With more than a century of natural history research, it is among the world's oldest tropical research stations. There were once approximately 200 different bird species living on this island. However, about 25% of them have disappeared in the past 100 years, and scientists are unsure of why. With the completion of the Panama Canal in 1914, the problem started. Then the neighboring Gatun Lake began to rise. Scientists thought the declining bird population was due to the local mammals' predation of bird eggs, but the cause of the decrease was still unknown. Douglas Robinson, an environmentalist, made the decision to investigate bird migration on the island in 1994. He learned that a large number of native bird species were stranded on the island. And it turned out that the local snake population was raiding the nests, not the local animals, who were consuming the bird eggs. Nevertheless, despite this, the island had lost over 45 bird species by the year 2000. But a loss of such amount could hardly be explained by snakes. Douglas Robinson is still digging into the mysteries of the bird's disappearance. The legendary humpback whale migration is well known, involving thousands of miles over the course of the animal's lifespan. However, this is an odd circumstance that arose in January 2019. A dead humpback whale appeared on the shores of an island in the Amazon River, 1 year old. Just imagine how shocked the residents of Maroxy Island were to learn about it. This baby whale was discovered farther up the river in freshwater, and despite the fact that it had no evident injuries, it is quite unusual because by February, all whales are normally long gone. Because the moment of its death didn't match the typical migration patterns, scientists were puzzled. According to theories, it may have died from eating too much plastic debris close to the shore or from becoming stranded in the rare off-season currents that carried it in. It's surprising for the people to find a whale washed so far up the river, though, regardless of the cause. There are tribes located deep within the Amazon rainforest, essentially isolated from the outside world. They have some knowledge of modern life, yet they face many issues, including as mining and logging that is illegal and endangering them. Because these tribes are so remote, scientists and researchers don't know much about their way of life. Peru is one of the most remote groups. There were most likely only 20 of them recently, and they are found deep in Brazil's wilderness. Not even the other tribes in the vicinity knew anything about them. Brazilian officials were unaware of their difficult predicament until 1998. After a bunch of outsiders attacked them and massacred many of their group, 2 men from the tribe were forced to flee the forest in search of medical attention. Concerned about the state of many, a judge in Brazil made the decision to take action in 2021. A group that protects indigenous people were instructed to reserve a significant area of land for the Peru. The intention was to provide them adequate room to live apart from modern problems and life, but illegal logging continues to grow on their territory, resulting in deforestation, conflict, illness, and death. For years, sightings of UFOs have sparked discussions and controversies. But picture seeing a UFO in the heart of the Amazon rainforest. In 2016, a weird object appeared hidden by dense Amazonian rainforest on satellite imagery. People began to question if it was alien-made as soon as they saw it. A person using Google Maps noticed the bright, round spheres. It seemed strange because it didn't seem to belong with the surroundings. We still don't fully understand what those circular objects are. People have been fascinated by this mystery for years, and it's unclear whether this UFO-like mystery in the bush will be solved. Every location has its own mythological creatures, and South America has the Maroxy, a localized version of Bigfoot. These creatures resemble the stories you may have heard about where you live, except in this instance, they are gigantic, with reported heights of up to 12 feet. These animals have a reputation for being hostile toward humans. However, it's claimed that they fear loud noises, such as firearms. This is where things start to become really intriguing. In 1914, Colonel Perry Fawcett, a British explorer, claimed to have encountered one of these Maroxy while surveying South America's jungles. He said they had a lot of hair. Equipped with bows and arrows, they lived north of the Maroxy tribe. These animals couldn't talk, they just grunted, and were really hostile toward people. In his book, the colonel describes how he and his team almost became victims of these beasts when they approached the village too close. The ancient Incas inhabited what is now known as modern-day Colombia in South America. For hundreds of years, people lived in the area, leaving behind an intriguing history. Upon exploring some of their former locations, archaeologists discovered some quite intriguing artifacts. These little golden miniatures, which resemble tiny airplanes, were among them. The fact that these figures are between 1200 to 1500 years old and that they startlingly resemble modern airplanes is what makes this discovery so remarkable. Some people believe that the Incas were time travelers, but the more logical theory is that these are just artistic representations of birds or bees, but when you look closely it has features of landing gear and wings like what you'd find on an airplane. Envision yourself in the middle of nowhere, in a jungle, when a large meteorite suddenly drops from the sky. This occurred in Sri Lanka in 2012, and scientists were quite interested in it. Scientists from Sri Lanka, the UK, and the US examined the fragments of space rock, and they believed they had discovered potentially amazing fossils and algae in the meteorite that may have originated from space. Since it would be the first concrete proof of extraterrestrial life, if it is accurate, it would be the discovery of the century. However, other experts think the contents of the meteorite could just be common, old freshwater organisms that exist on our own planet. You might associate Costa Rica with stunning beaches and green jungles, but did you know that the region is also well known for something pretty strange? The terrain is dotted with enormous, nearly perfectly round stone balls. The United Fruit Company was looking for the ideal location to grow bananas in the 1930s, and they discovered it in the Dequas Valley, which is located in the west, close to the Pacific Ocean. Some of the stones weighed 16 tons and measured 7 feet wide, while others were as big as a basketball. This is when the exciting part starts. Nobody is certain if these spheres are indeed from Earth or where they originated. Some associate them with the lost city of Atlantis, while others think aliens brought them here. Scientists made the decision to examine these stones in the 1940s. They think they were manually fashioned by the ancient residents of the Incas Valley. The primary enigma remains the reason behind the creation of these stones in the first place. Before people began excavating and felling trees in the 19th century, the Amazon rainforest was long thought to be a beautiful, unspoiled region. New research, however, is seriously challenging that notion. Huge ditches are dispersed throughout the rainforest, according to scientists. Not only are these ditches enormous, reaching depths of up to 16 feet, but they are also far older than the rainforest itself. This begs the question of whether prehistoric humans altered the Amazon before the arrival of Europeans. It's true that ancient humans may have constructed these ditches before the rainforest became into the vast paradise it is today. They may not have required sophisticated equipment or sizable labor forces because the jungle had not yet expanded. Now we don't exactly know what these ditches were used for. Maybe they were like fences for protection, or helped with water drainage, or even had something to do with ceremonies or religion. Ancient legends in Ecuador relate of a time when giants may have roamed the planet and established enormous cities. Stories of these enormous beings who built prosperous cities before the arrival of regular people are told by several tribes in the Amazon basin. Researchers who were interested in these legends set out on an expedition to locate the so-called lost city of giants, scouting out isolated regions of Ecuador's Amazon. They really found a hidden city in the woods, and these enormous constructions are not something out of a fairy tale. Larger than normal for regular people, standing 260 feet tall and 260 feet broad, the largest one was a pyramid. Plus, they found way too oversized tools like gigantic hammers which were way too big for regular humans to use. North and South Vietnam fought each other in the protracted, expensive, and contentious Vietnam War, with the United States serving as the main ally. All of this occurred during the Cold War standoff between the US and the USSR. Unfortunately, more than 3 million individuals died in this war. More than half of them were civilians rather than combatants. In the dense jungles of Vietnam, American soldiers who served there claimed to have come across strange and mystical animals. Craig Thompson, a veteran, shared a story about how he and his crew were just hanging around by a river when they noticed this enormous snake-like object approaching them. This was no common snake, though. Its body was covered in shimmering golden scales, and it measured 30 feet long by 2 feet wide. Its head was large and square. These soldiers must have become really frightened. Additionally, this creature disappeared under the river as they were ready to fire at it. The story of Ho Van Ton and his son Ho Van Lang is one of those remarkable tales that almost seems like fiction. During the Vietnam War in 1972, Ton's wife and 2 children were tragically killed by a U.S. bomb. As a result, he made the decision to escape into the heart of the Vietnamese jungle with his 2-year-old son. Lang father and son resided there for 41 arduous years. They created their own loincloths from tree bark, built tree dwellings, and survived by hunting, gathering food, and avoiding contact with outsiders. Their seclusion was eventually disturbed in 2013 when locals looking for firewood happened across them. Since Ton's health had deteriorated, they had to return to contemporary society. They were examined by doctors and began acclimating to life in the world they had left behind. They thought that the war was still going on when they got back. Lang knew very few words in the core language, while Ton could converse with locals in it. Ton passed away in 2017 from old age. Lang also died at the age of 52 from liver cancer 8 years after they returned to civilization. Friends speculate that Lang's untimely demise might have been caused by the strain of adjusting to the modern world and their different dietary habits. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.